Chapter 23. And the whole multitude of them arose and led him unto Pilate. And they began to accuse him, saying, This one we have found perverting the people and forbidding to pay tribute to Caesar, saying that he is Christ, a king. And Pilate questioned him, saying, Are you the king of the Jews? Then he answered him and said, You have said it. Then said Pilate to the chief priests and the people, I find no fault in this man. But they persisted, saying, He stirs up the people, teaching throughout the whole of Judea, and beginning from Galilee, even to this place. But Pilate, hearing Galilee, asked whether the man was a Galilean. And knowing that he was from Herod's jurisdiction, sent him to Herod, who was also at Jerusalem in those days. And when Herod saw Jesus, he was exceedingly glad, for he had been wishing for a long time to see him, because he had heard many things concerning him and was looking forward to seeing him do a miracle. Then he questioned him about many things, but he did not answer him. The chief priests and scribes stood by, violently accusing him. Then Herod, with his troops, made him nothing, and mocked him, and put splendid apparel on him, and sent him back to Pilate. And the same day Pilate and Herod were made friends with one another, for before they were hostile to each other. And Pilate called together the chief priests and the rulers of the people, and said to them, You have brought this man to me as one who misleads the people. And look, I have examined him before you, and have found no fault in this man regarding the accusations against him. Also neither has Herod. For I sent you to him, and lo, nothing worthy of death has been done by him. I will therefore chasten him, and release him. Now it was necessary to release one of them at the feast. But all the multitude cried out at once, saying, Away with him, but release Barabbas to us, who had been cast into prison on account of an insurrection and murder that was made in the city. Therefore Pilate called to them again, desiring to release Jesus. But they were crying out, saying, Crucify him! Crucify him! He said to them the third time, What evil has he done? I find no cause of death in him. Therefore, having chastised him, I will release him. But they cried out with boisterous voices, demanding that he be crucified. And their voices and those of the chief priests prevailed. And Pilate gave the sentence that their request should be done. Then he released to them the one who had been cast into prison because of insurrection and murder, whom they desired, and delivered Jesus to their will. And as they led him away, they laid hold on Simon, a Cyrenian, who was coming from the field. They put the cross upon him to bear it after Jesus. And a great multitude followed him of the people, and women who were mourning and lamenting him. But Jesus turned to them and said, Daughters of Jerusalem, do not weep for me, but weep for yourselves and for your children. For behold, the days will come when men shall say, Blessed are the barren, and the wombs that never bore, and the breasts that never nursed. Then shall they begin to say to the mountains, Fall on us, and to the hills, Cover us. For if they do these things in the green tree, what shall take place in the dry? And there were led with him 2 evildoers to be put to death. And when they came to the place which is called a skull, there they crucified him, and the evildoers, one on the right and the other on the left. Then Jesus said, Father, forgive them, for they do not know what they are doing. Then dividing his garments, they cast lots. And the people stood, and as spectators were sneering along with their rulers, saying, He saved others. Let him save himself if this is the Christ, the chosen of God. The soldiers also ridiculed him, and came offering him vinegar, and said, If you are the king of the Jews, save yourself. Now there was also an inscription written over him, written in Greek, Latin, and Hebrew, This is the King of the Jews. And one of the evildoers that had been hanged railed on him, saying, If you are the Christ, save yourself and us. But the other one responded and rebuked him, saying, Don't you even fear God, since you are under this same judgment? For we indeed justly receive what we deserve for what we did, but this man has done nothing wrong. And he said to Jesus, Lord, remember me when you come into your kingdom." And Jesus said to him, "With certainty I tell you, today you will be with me in paradise." And it was about the 6th hour of the day, and there came a darkness over all the earth until the 9th hour. And the sun was darkened, and the veil of the temple was torn in the middle. And Jesus cried out with a loud voice and said, "Father, into your hands I commit my spirit." And when he said this, he expired. When the centurion saw what had happened, he glorified God, saying, "Indeed, this was a righteous man." And all of the crowd who came together to see this spectacle that took place returned home, beating their breasts. And all of those who knew him and the women who followed him from Galilee stood afar off, watching these things. And behold, there was a man named Joseph, a counselor, who was a good and righteous man, who had not consented to the counsel and actions of them, who was of Arimathea, a city of the Jews, who was also himself waiting for the kingdom of God. He went to Pilate and begged for the body of Jesus, and took it down and wrapped it in a linen cloth, and placed it in a tomb hewn from a rock, in which no one had ever laid. And it was the day of preparation, and the Sabbath was coming. Now also the women followed, who had come with him from Galilee, saw the tomb and how his body was laid. And having returned, they prepared perfumes and ointments, and rested on the Sabbath day, according to the commandment.